Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is doorways to the miraculous, and how we can create the unanticipated by accessing other dimensions of awareness. So it should be an adventure today. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and very softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel that sensation, to presence yourself to the physicalness that we experience our lives through, to feel that tickling, that tingling, and just delight in that and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Good morning. It's great to have you here with us, and welcome to everyone else who's joining us this morning or whenever you get to see this. We're talking about doorways to the miraculous. And so I live for magic and miracles are kind of something that is perhaps otherwise inexplicable. Good morning, Lisa. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. So when we allow ourselves to dive more deeply into our consciousness, to access different dimensions of experience, what happens is we also access different dimensions of thought and conceptualization, and thereby access possibilities that would be otherwise unavailable to us. And as we move into these altered spaces with that new cognition and those new possibilities, we are opening arenas of possibility that is nonlinear. And maybe those possibilities fall into a realm that we could call the miraculous. Good morning, Robin. So good to have you here joining us this morning. So I'm reminded of what Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing with thousands and thousands and thousands of people with meditation, by supporting people in accessing altered states of consciousness that then provide possibility that in previous states was inaccessible. So what I'm talking about, for instance, is connecting through this altered state with the potentiality or the presence of perfection in our being, in our body. And as a result of contacting this consciousness beyond our normal linear awareness, moving kind of into a space beyond time and space, beyond the boundaries of our limiting consciousness. Not all of our consciousness is limiting, but beyond the boundaries of our limiting consciousness into this awareness of perfection. People have all kinds of what we would call miraculous healing, spontaneous healing from long-term persistent conditions, or conditions that may have been deemed fatal even, or terminal, or incurable. And it is by stepping into these other realms of awareness that we all have available to us, that we then have possibilities available to us that transcend our conventional understanding of existence. So Robin says, what's today's subject? Doorways to the miraculous. So essentially accessing doorways to the miraculous. And how we do that is by shifting our awareness, by deepening our consciousness, by directing our consciousness in different ways. We have access to different information. And we've been talking for a little bit about how our minds are funneling devices that are kind of selectively focusing on subsets of the information that's available to us. And what we're talking about is how, by accessing different data sets, we can have different experiences that defy our notion of linear reality, and step into the miraculous. So Lisa says, when I meditate or journey, I'm always a tall, slim blonde. LOL. That's a riot, Lisa. That's funny. So your alter ego, or your spiritual self, or whatever you want to call that, is a tall, slim blonde. That's so funny. So it gets us to understand that our identity is much more fluid than we imagine, right? So when we've been talking, yesterday we were talking about deepening into the wisdom of the body and connecting to other dimensions of awareness through our physicalness. And we can also be doing that in our consciousness. And we do all the time. We just don't necessarily do it consciously or deliberately. Rosalind says, I like to use guided meditations to create the space for unattaching to stories, replacing it with, I am happy because nothing is missing, not bypassing, not suppressing. So I just want to address the phrasing of that. I love the sentiment. I'm drawn to suggest to you that perhaps an even more powerful affirmation would be, I'm happy because I'm whole, rather than because nothing is missing. Because as we're talking about nothing missing, we're invoking that in some respect, right? So I'm happy because I am whole and complete. And that might be even more supportive to you, perhaps. And Rosalind says, it does not say this hurts, one is better than another, would rather have this be over. Oh, I gotcha. So when we say, we could just say, I'm happy because I'm happy also. But what you're saying, Rosalind, is when we allow ourselves to be whole, we're not making comparisons, although maybe the word whole implies unwhole. We could just say, I'm happy because I am. Um, or I'm happy because, or I'm happy without any cause, perhaps. And Robin says, I'm working on this path. My concentration is my issue, chasing rabbits. So maybe you can embrace the chasing of rabbits, and rather than resisting it. We talk about monkey mind, and how all of these mechanisms of our body, of our consciousness, we're always trying to conquer them in one way or another. And I am more of an advocate of finding ways to embrace them and befriend them and align them or align with them. And so if you're chasing rabbits, maybe there's some joy in recognizing the rabbits that you're chasing, and maybe allowing the rabbits to chase you, or maybe playing with the rabbits instead of chasing them. When we release the resistance around our thoughts and our behaviors, and it allows us then to come to a place of choice. At least that's the way it seems to me, that as we're resisting something, as we're judging it, about making it wrong, we're resisting it, it gives it more power. It's kind of like when we affirm one polarity, we're affirming the other in its way. So maybe instead of chasing the rabbits, we get to notice the rabbits, and what their different ears and tails look like. And or we can just notice them gambling about and appreciate them. So what I notice, I guess we're talking now a bit more about resistance, how we access these deeper states of consciousness, I think, is by allowing for the experience that we're experiencing. And as this is the same thing that I encounter over and over with my clients in core connection work, is that when we're able to be present to what's there, it moves on, it changes. And when we resist something, we're embedding it, we're magnifying it, we're putting attention on it, we're feeding it. So this notion of resistance, as we look at it, it incorporates judgment, where we're making things bad or wrong, rather than allowing things to just be. And as I say that, what arises is this notion of complacency, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about awareness, and I guess the question is, how do we source awareness without judgment, right? How do we transcend the judgment? We pretty much consistently have a running commentary on what's going on in our environment, in our being, in our, we're always having this internal conversation. We can perhaps allow that conversation to become more productive by moving it away from judgment. If we notice that we're judging, we can say, oh, wow, I notice I'm judging. that's interesting. And what's next? To not be caught in judgment of the judgment, for example. Rosalind says, so watching your thoughts and words, step back and observe who is the I, who is the I who is creating those thoughts, gauge the attachment of something with no judgment. Yeah, I think that when we can step back and notice them without getting hooked, notice them with curiosity. I think, we've said this before, curiosity is the antidote to judgment. So as we allow ourselves to be curious, we can discover things that were otherwise inaccessible to us. And so this is the same thing as moving into these altered states. Curiosity is a way that we can move into an altered state where new perceptions might be available to us, new conceptualization might be available to us. And from that, we then have access to new possibilities that might not otherwise have been accessible. And then from that comes a nonlinear experience of awareness or of being, or sometimes of manifestation in in the material. We've all had those moments of inspiration where we've had a the words escaping me at the moment, but an aha moment, right? So Rosalind says, rather than categorizing, that it helps me. Yes. So rather than trying to categorize things, which is another way, we're trying to make understanding. We're trying to gain understanding of the world around us in an effort to have it be less frightening, right? Because, or less unknown. If we know it, if we believe we know it, is really more accurate. If we think we understand it, if we think then it gives us a greater sense of control in the face of the unknown. And many of us are terrorized by the notion of the unknown, right? Stepping into this unfamiliar arena where anything goes. And I love that, Rosalind. Rosalind says, to think of it like a river. You cannot divide a river. You can't. It's all a flow. Exactly. So that's beautifully said. When we can be the river, so it makes me think of particle and wave, right? There's a drop of water, but the drop of water, the ocean is made of drops of water. The river is made of drops of water, but the drops are not the river, and the river is not the drops, right? The river, it transcends the drops. And so when the drops are part of the river, they lose they become more than a drop. And I think that that's what we have access to as we move into these other dimensions of awareness, that the river is that flow of possibility that is nonlinear. Rivers meander. So Lisa says to Rosalind, then release what doesn't serve you and move on. Yes. So maybe we get to release it all. What happens if we release it all? Then it's all available to us, in the flow, that it's all flowing through. We have greater access as we allow our hands to open rather than be grasping onto all of this stuff, things, ideas, beliefs, perceptions, emotions, experiences. As we allow ourselves to hold all of that with open hand, then it's all there and it's all available all the time. And that enables us to move beyond this experience of linearity. And I say a miracle is something that transcends our concept of time, because so much of what happens in life, like when a bone heals, we don't consider it miraculous. It takes a certain period of time, and that's the norm, right? But if a bone breaks and a bone heals in the space of a minute or 5 minutes or an hour, then we consider that miraculous, right? Because it's transcended the linearity that we expect as the norm. And so if we can move into this place of flow, this space of flow, then we are able then to move beyond the linearity of time into this pool of possibility. And from that pool, we connect with the emergent. And what I mean by that is we connect with the infinite in some way, shape, or form. And then there's a whole spectrum of greater possibility that was previously unavailable. So I think that this is a time where we have greater and greater access to these other, I'm going to say, dimensions of awareness, if we choose to take the time and intention to access them. So Rosalind says, also trust in yourself and the formless you to be willing to be vulnerable in the unknown. Yes, that's a biggie. That's a biggie, to be having the trust in yourself and the universe, to be willing to step into this unfamiliar place of awareness. So as we go more deeply inside, or as we connect more completely, for instance, with nature, which looks like it's going outside, but I don't know that it truly is. When we create this synergistic relationship between the inner and the outer, there's a magic that can happen. You know, when we connect deeply within and without at the same time, then maybe the we that we believe ourselves to be kind of disappears into this whole new realm of possibility. And then we can access the miraculous as we are transcending time. So this might be it may be sounding a little or more than a little abstract, but it's somehow making sense to me. What can I say? Making sense on a level that is instinctive rather than intellectual. Is sort of transcending the rational, to be able to connect deeply to presence internally allows us to connect more deeply with the external, if indeed there is an external, right? And then there's this magical alchemical synergy that explodes into possibility. So Rosalind says, retraining our nervous system. Beautiful. Thank you, Rosalind. Bringing it into a more material form there. Yes. So I think that what we are up to, what we do have the opportunity for, is to be retraining our nervous system to heighten our sensitivities. We were talking about sensing yesterday, to heighten our sense abilities, to tune into different dimensions of experience. So Rosalind says begins with heart-centeredness. I think that's probably quite true. When we talk about brain and heart coherence, then there, so Rosalind says, what is said about the heart is that it's our second brain. That's said about the gut as well. So we've got like multiple brains in our being. And when these brains can be coordinated, which is kind of what we're talking about, is unifying these different dimensions of awareness. There's a resonance that occurs, at least this is my sense. I don't have any kind of documentation, although I know that heart math, brain and heart coherence, provides all kinds of tremendous benefits and awareness, that we experience a whole different cognition, perception, emotion, context. Everything changes. So there was a wonderful book I read years ago called The Doors of Perception. And I think that's really what we're talking about here, is the doors of perception are the doors to the miraculous. And as we are able to shift our perception and shift our orientation, then we, of necessity, shift what's available to us, both conceptually and experientially and materially as well. So we are looking to be retraining our nervous systems, to be tuning in more deeply, to be more present to the information that we have so long been trained to disregard, that it's there. It's there. We just get to presence ourselves more fully to it, to open more fully to it. Good morning, Dido. So glad to have you here with us. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page at 9 a.m. Eastern. So I am so thrilled to spend this time with you, and so grateful to you for your engagement. And I hope to see you again here really, really soon. In the meantime, please check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network at EWN One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living, and of course the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. So much love to you. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's like 1 minute before I have to leave and you're putting in all these comments. Good luck, Lisa, with the birds. Oh my gosh. And Rosalind says, blessing for all of our journeys. I flow with what is coming into and out of my life. I am safe at every form of flow in my life. I am the creek, the river, the ocean. I'm guided and protected. I'm whole and safe and loved. And Rosalind, thank you for that. Absolutely beautiful. So much love to all of you. Until next time, hopefully really soon. Much, much love.